One of the biblical wonders of our world is facing an almighty crisis. The Dead Sea is drying up at a very alarming.
For centuries, the Dead Sea has been known as one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. A body of water so salty, so dense, that life simply could not survive in its depths. No fish, no aquatic plants, no living organisms, just salt, minerals, and stillness. Surrounded by stark desert and scorched by an unforgiving sun, the Dead Sea earned its name for a reason. But what if I told you that something miraculous is happening? What if the Dead Sea is showing signs of life again? And more astonishingly, what if this event was foretold thousands of years ago by a prophet in the Bible? Today, we are exploring a truly breathtaking phenomenon, the appearance of living fish in the waters near the Dead Sea, a fulfillment many believe aligns with an ancient prophecy from the book of Ezekiel. As science and scripture collide, we find ourselves standing at the crossroads of mystery, faith, and revelation. Before we dive into this incredible story, we kindly ask you to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating explorations into biblical prophecy, archaeology, and the wonders of our world. Your support helps us continue to bring you thought-provoking content every week. Now, let's journey into the heart of the Dead Sea and uncover what could be one of the most awe-inspiring fulfillments of prophecy in our time. The prophecy of Ezekiel, a vision of restoration. The story begins with the prophet Ezekiel, an exile in Babylon, living through one of Israel's darkest periods. Around 600 years before Christ, Ezekiel received visions from God. Among them was one remarkable prophecy recorded in Ezekiel chapter 47, a vision that describes a future transformation of the land, and more specifically, a miraculous change to a body of water many scholars interpret as the Dead Sea. Ezekiel describes a river flowing eastward from the temple in Jerusalem. As it travels through the land, the river grows deeper and wider. Eventually, it reaches a vast, salty sea, understood by many to be the Dead Sea. And then, Ezekiel makes a stunning declaration. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Ezekiel 47 verses 8 to 9. At the time this was written, such an idea would have seemed utterly impossible. The Dead Sea was, and remains, one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth, nearly 10 times saltier than the oceans. The mineral concentration is so high that salt crystals form along its shores, and no fish or aquatic life can survive in its hypersaline environment. Yet Ezekiel's vision speaks of a future where fresh water flows into it, life returns, and even fishermen stand along its banks. A Dead Sea made alive again. A scientific shift. What's happening at the Dead Sea? In recent decades, the Middle East has seen dramatic environmental changes. Water levels in the Dead Sea have been dropping at an alarming rate, over 3 feet per year, largely due to upstream diversion of the Jordan River and industrial use of its waters. What's left behind as the sea recedes are sinkholes, thousands of them, opening up all along the shoreline. But hidden within this environmental crisis is a surprise no one quite expected. In 2011, an Israeli photographer and environmentalist named Noam Bedin made a shocking discovery. Exploring newly formed sinkholes near the Dead Sea, he found something extraordinary: pools of fresh water, and within them, fish. Small, living fish swimming in what was once the most uninhabitable environment on Earth. How could this be? Some of these sinkholes, researchers found, were being filled by underground freshwater springs. These springs somehow carved channels through the mineral-rich soil and formed isolated pools that were no longer saturated with salt. Over time, life began to return. The presence of living fish, algae, and even bacteria in these freshwater pools around the Dead Sea marked a dramatic shift. What was once only theoretical, a Dead Sea returning to life, was now visible, measurable, and real. The spiritual significance. Coincidence or divine fulfillment? For those of faith, the appearance of fish in or around the Dead Sea has a deeply spiritual implication. Could it really be that Ezekiel's prophecy is unfolding before our eyes? It's important to note that Ezekiel wasn't merely offering poetic imagery. He described specific features of the geography, such as En-Gedi and En-Eglaim, where fishermen would one day cast their nets. Both of these locations are real, and they are situated along the western shores of the Dead Sea. The prophecy says that fish will be of many kinds, just like those in the Mediterranean Sea. While we're not quite at that level of biodiversity, the fact that any fish are found near the Dead Sea at all is, scientifically speaking, astonishing, and biblically speaking, potentially prophetic. Whether you view the Bible as a sacred text, a historical document, or a collection of ancient literature, it's hard to deny the poetic symmetry of life returning to a place so synonymous with death. What makes this even more intriguing is that this isn't a case of fish being introduced manually. These are wild fish, finding their way through underground channels, thriving in pockets of freshwater where there was none before. It defies expectations and aligns with prophecy, the intersection of science and scripture. Skeptics often ask, isn't this just a natural occurrence? Couldn't environmental factors explain this without invoking prophecy? The short answer is yes, they could. Geologists, hydrologists, and climate scientists have studied the region and can explain the conditions under which freshwater springs could form. They can trace the environmental impact of agriculture and water diversion that have lowered the sea level and caused the sinkholes. And yet, that doesn't explain why this is happening now, or why the process mirrors ancient words written more than 2.5 millennia ago. Even within science, there's room for wonder. Many scientists, while not necessarily endorsing a prophetic viewpoint, have called the phenomenon mysterious, rare, and even miraculous in a natural sense. Faith and science are not enemies here. In fact, they may be telling the same story through different languages, one speaking in terms of spiritual renewal, the other in data and ecology. But both seem to agree. Something remarkable is happening at the Dead Sea. The broader message, hope from desolation. Whether you believe this is the literal fulfillment of biblical prophecy or simply a powerful metaphor, the return of life to the Dead Sea carries a universal message. Hope can rise from desolation. Ezekiel's vision wasn't just about fish and rivers. It was about restoration, redemption, and renewal. About something once dead coming back to life. It's a theme echoed throughout the Bible and in many other religious and philosophical traditions. In our world today, with so many regions facing environmental degradation, conflict, and despair, the image of life returning to a Dead Sea becomes more than a prophecy. It becomes a symbol, a reminder that healing is possible, that transformation can happen, and that even the most barren places can be restored. What happens next? So what does the future hold for the Dead Sea? Can we expect it to become a thriving ecosystem? Will fishermen one day really line its shores, just as Ezekiel said? It's hard to say. Environmental efforts are underway to save the Dead Sea and restore the balance of water in the region. Some scientists are advocating for projects that would pump water from the Red Sea to stabilize its levels and support its unique environment. But beyond the environmental questions, the deeper intrigue lies in what this means spiritually. Is this just the beginning of a larger prophetic timeline? Are we witnessing the unfolding of ancient scriptures in real time? Time will tell. But for now, the waters of the Dead Sea are no longer as lifeless as they once were. And that alone is enough to stir the imagination, to awaken faith, and to inspire awe. Closing thoughts. In a place where life was never meant to exist, fish now swim. A sea once dead now shows signs of healing. And a prophecy, spoken through a man in exile over 2,500 years ago, begins to whisper its fulfillment into the present. This is more than news. This is a story of wonder, a moment where history, faith, and science touch hands across the centuries. Thank you for joining us in exploring this miraculous development. If you found this content insightful and inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We have many more incredible stories coming your way. Stories of prophecy, archaeology, and the enduring mysteries of our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep seeking truth.